Richard III is a history play. It was certainly written before 1597, and the sources for it are many, starting with Sir Thomas More, The History of King Richard III, Richard Grafton, A Chronicle at Large, and the famous Holinshed Chronicles, but also some works by Seneca and the morality plays, Shaping the Vice. In the 50s, 90s, Elizabethan playwrights competed in inventing sensational scenes for the stage. In Marlowe's Jew of Malta, Barabbas blows up a whole convent of nuns, while in Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, Titus and his daughter Lavinia are both horribly mutilated. These writers were fascinated by the figure of Machiavelli, whom they interpreted as the incarnation of diabolical self-interest, and the cynical, evil-loving villains of these plays were often referred to as Machiavels. A more sophisticated villain is Richard III, who says that he will go even farther than the murderous Machiavel in evil. Richard was the last of the Yorkist kings, deposed by Henry VII, the future King Henry Tudor, Queen Elizabeth's grandfather. The Tudors presented Henry's usurpation as the triumph of divine justice over pure evil. And Shakespeare echoed this claim by making Richard even more cruel and deformed. In the play, he is hunchback, lamely deformed, though there was no historical basis for this. But Shakespeare also makes Richard fascinating, and of all his plays, this is the one that is performed most often. According to Shakespeare, rhetoric is the maker of history. The people who can make an effective speech are the winners. And Richard uses rhetoric to delineate his own character and to persuade and dominate others. He is clever, cunning, very able with his words. Richard, who defines his own nature in the opening soliloquy, sums up and gathers into his person the savagery which prevails everywhere around him. He is not happy with peace because he is not made for love, so he just wants to prove he's a villain. Richard introduces himself to the audience from the very beginning of the play with powerful and sharp sentences, describing his deformity and shaping his deformity into a sort of justification for his cruelty. So he is determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasure of these days. In the end, Henry, Earl of Richmond, invades England and succeeds in defeating and killing the usurping Richard. However, Richard acts bravely despite his despair till his death, and the famous shouting, "A horse, my kingdom for a horse," will remain forever. It has often been remarked that all the characters in the play are linked to a pattern of guilt and expiation, of crime and punishment. They all live in a frightful and disordered world, believing prided vengeance which relieves them of a feeling of responsibility for the wrongs suffered by the others. Richard is definitely a cruel person, a usurper, a murderer, evil, but at the same time is clever, active, courageous, witty and charming. And unfortunately, he's also a hunchback, lamely, nobody likes him. So in the end, shall we feel pity for him?